places. Grab yourself a warm or cool drink. I spelled, I think. Yeah, or a cool drink, because it's getting really hot in some places. It's already getting very hot where I live. Yeah, settle in, get cozy. If you have your own stories that you want to appear in a video, you can find my email down below. But let's jump in. Alright, this is a Reddit story to just make it the video a little bit longer. Alright, this didn't actually happen to me, but it happened to my mom when she was a teenager. My mom is now in her mid-60s. She is not an overly religious woman. She doesn't read the Bible regularly. She rarely goes to church, but she prays every night because that is what gives her comfort. I'll have to side note this with, I watched normal horror movies with her every so often. Nothing too crazy or too gory, but spooky, if you will. Well, I asked her one day if she wanted to watch The Exorcist, and she flat out 100% refused. What is my camera doing? She said, there is absolutely no way she will ever watch anything related to possessions or exorcisms. Well, this was curious. So the movie called Constantine comes out, and I show her the trailer for it, asking her if she wants to watch it with me. She sees the girl in the movie near the beginning climbing on the ceiling and just refuses to watch it. I should also note, my mother will refuse and kick you out of her house if you even think about bringing a Ouija board into the home. She will yell, scream, and cuss at you until you drop the subject. And that is that. This is important. Alright, so now that little backstory is out of the way, I ended up asking her why exactly she refuses to watch these sorts of movies with me. Well, she tells me that when she was a teenager, at a sleepover at a friend's house one time, they were up playing games, and the parents were watching TV. Her friends and her are on the floor playing a board game, and it's a game that my mom has never played before. Come to find out, it's a Ouija board, and she didn't know what it did at the time. They start playing, asking a bunch of questions, and they end up finding out that there is a spirit in the house. So they ask it to show itself. They wait, nothing happens, and then they demand it to show itself. This was her first indication that something was not right, because all of the lights around the house, every light in every single room went out immediately, including the TV, and then it snapped right back on. They ask the next question, asking, "Who are you?" The pieces eyes move around the board in big circles with their hands on it, and it stops at the letter D. It then moves to the letter E, then to the letters V, I, L. They think someone's messing with it. This can't possibly be real. So they ask, if you really are the devil, then show yourself. Nothing happens, but then suddenly the TV goes out again. In the reflection of the TV, sitting in the living room next to them, my mom and her friends and their parents could make out the shape of something terrifying, just sitting there, sitting next to them. And then the house got extremely cold. All of a sudden, loud noises could be heard coming from the kitchen. Stuff was flying off of the top of the fridge. Stuff was flying out of the cupboards. Cupboard doors were opening and closing. They immediately stop the game. They close it up and they throw it in the trash, never to play with it again. Later that night, my mom is sound asleep and she's awoken by something loud and clinging on the roof. She listens intently and she can hear what sounds like what she thinks are chains and dogs coming from the roof. That's not possible, right? It has to be something outside, just coming from somewhere. She wakes up the next morning and goes and talks to her friend's parents. She asks them if any of their neighbors have any dogs, to which they tell her no. And they tell her that they also heard the dogs and the chains coming from the roof last night. So that is the story of why my mom refuses to watch anything that involves exorcisms. She truly believes that the devil was there with them that night, just sitting next to them. And the messed up thing is, every time she tells me that story, I get this cold shiver down my spine, because I know that there is no way that she would be making this up. I think that would be probably one of the scariest scenarios for me. Like, just assuming that ghosts are real and you could actually summon a ghost with a Ouija board. It would be one thing to get an answer on your board. It would be one thing to pick up the energy or voices on little electronics, but it would be a whole other thing to see the reflection of an actual ghost sitting beside you. I wouldn't like that, not one bit. Okay, hi Leah. Hi. Longtime viewer, and I've always been fascinated by the stories here. Most of my life I've been a skeptic, or at least someone who tries to rationalize almost everything. This started when I was around 9 years old, I think. We lived in a home that was built in the 50s. I have very fragmented memories of the original house. We moved into it when I was around 5, maybe 6, so the memories are there, but they're getting fainter every year. My parents basically tore that original house down room by room, and they did renovations, keeping everything that they could from the original, including wood, brick, stones from the fireplace, that sort of thing. My parents still live there, and I actually just got home from house sitting for them for a week. Your videos help keep me sane, by the way, as I'm sure you'll understand as we move on to the actual story. I love that. Anyway, the house always had a weird vibe to it in general, but I mostly chalk that up to just being a little kid and being scared. But there was one room that always freaked me out. For as long as I could remember, I had always been scared of the downstairs bathroom. It was a normal bathroom, just a standard small room with a toilet and a sink, tucked away off of the main family room area. But it always seemed colder than the rest of the house, even in the summer, and it had this weird musty smell that never went away even after my mom cleaned it. But the real reason that it freaked me out was the door. There was a door in the back wall of the bathroom right next to the toilet. It was a normal looking door, but it was set lower to the ground, maybe only 4 or 5 feet tall, and it led directly into the crawl space under the house. I mean, like the actual dirt and spiderweb crawl space. My dad would use it for storage, old paint cans, garden tools, that kind of thing. But to a kid, it was like a portal to a dark, unknown world. My imagination always went crazy about what could be living in there. I hated that door. I always imagined something peering out from behind it, or trying to push its way through. And of course, this was always when I had to use that bathroom. Anytime I had to use it, I went as fast as humanly possible. Any other time, I avoided that bathroom like the plague. We had an upstairs bathroom, obviously, that my brother and I shared, and that was always my go-to. But as anyone with a sibling knows, sometimes your older brother decides that he needs to spend an hour in there doing whatever teenagers do. When you gotta go, you gotta go. And that was how I ended up in the downstairs bathroom, dreading it, but with no other nervousness, trying to be as fast as possible. And as I was about to flush, that was when I heard it. It was a faint scratching coming from behind that dreaded crawl space door. It was like nails dragging across the wood, or something trying to dig its way through. It wasn't loud, but in the quiet of that small bathroom, it seemed amplified. My heart started thumping. I froze, my hand hovering over the toilet handle. So I'm just standing there, hand on the flusher, frozen. This scratching sound, it was faint, but it was definitely coming from inside that crawl space door. My mind, being an 8 or 9-year-old's, immediately went to the most logical and terrifying of things. A rat, a really big spider, maybe even a raccoon that had somehow gotten in there. But even as I tried to rationalize it, a shiver went down my spine. This did not sound like an animal. I held my breath, listening. The scratching stopped. For a moment, all I heard was the hum of the refrigerator coming from upstairs, and the muffled sound of my brother doing whatever he was doing up there. I told myself it had to just be my imagination. It was nothing. It was playing tricks on me. Because even at that young age, I already knew I hated that bathroom. I had a fear of that bathroom. I flushed quickly, washed my hands, which I still can't believe I did, and I practically sprinted out of there, not bothering to turn the light off. I kind of figured out of sight, out of mind, the way that you do when you put a blanket over your head when you think something is in the room with you. I have never done that. Even when I was little, I didn't do that. If I thought something was in the room, I wanted to see it. For a few days, I avoided that downstairs bathroom entirely. My brother was surprisingly efficient with his shower times, or maybe I just timed my bathroom breaks better. But I tried to forget about that scratching. Then came Tuesday. I remember the day because it was pizza night at our house, which was always a big deal. My brother, of course, chose pizza night to embark on what seemed like a world record-breaking shower. I fidgeted, I bounced, I tried to distract myself, but nature was calling. My mom was that wind. Oh my god. My mom was already nagging me to hurry up so we could eat. I trudged back to the downstairs dreaded bathroom. As soon as I stepped inside, I remembered how scared I had been. was already doing a nervous little flutter kick in my chest. I was almost done, almost home free, just reaching for the toilet paper when I heard it again. Not scratching this time. It was a soft, muffled thumping. Thump, thump, thump. It sounded like something bumping gently against the inside of the door. Maybe a soft fist or something heavy being dragged. It would stop and then start again. It couldn't have been a rat. No animal really makes a sound like that. It seemed bigger, and it was coming from inside the crawl space. My eyes were now locked on the door, specifically on the old doorknob. It was the kind that you had to twist down to open. Twist down to open. I'm trying to picture the doorknob. I don't know. It was the kind that you had to twist down to open, and it had a little keyhole in the middle. The thumping continued, a slow, methodical thumping. And then, as I watched, I started to see that the doorknob was moving. Of course. It wasn't like a violent rattle. It was a slow, deliberate turn. Maybe a fraction of an inch at first, but then a little bit more. It wasn't turning enough to open the door, but it was definitely moving, and it was moving from the inside. Someone or something had to be turning it. My mind completely blanked. Pure fear took over, and I felt like I couldn't move. After a few seconds, this twisting stopped. The thumping stopped. And then, as if it was giving one last desperate attempt, the doorknob twisted again, a little bit further this time. This time, I didn't pause. I didn't think. I didn't scream. I just reacted. I stumbled backward, threw open the door, and I ran faster than I had ever run in my life. I got upstairs to the safety and comfort of my family. I don't think I've ever been that scared before, and I don't think I will ever be that scared again. My brother stared at me, probably thinking that I had gone crazy. I was hyperventilating, pointing frantically downstairs, trying to stammer out something like the doorknob, moving, etc. My brother, being a typical older brother, just rolled his eyes and he told me to calm down. My mom, however, sobs, I managed to explain what had happened. She tried her best to comfort me, saying that it was just my imagination, but she looked pretty concerned. My dad, he has always been the practical, no-nonsense type. I'm very jumpy. Can hear my neighbor's dog. He listened to my story, then he did what any good dad would do. He grabbed a flashlight and he said, "All right, let's go see what's got you so spooked." I refused to go back into the bathroom. I sat at the top of the stairs, peering down as my dad went in there. I heard him open the crawl space door. I heard the rustle of things being moved around. He was in there for a good 5 minutes, maybe more. When he came out, he had a calm, reassuring look on his face. He held up his flashlight and he said, "See, there's nothing in there. I didn't even see a mouse." He then pulled me downstairs gently but firmly and he showed me. The crawl space door was wide open, revealing the dark, dusty space. He shined his flashlight into every single corner, pointing out the foundation, the clear ground, the spider webs, which he said were a good sign because it meant that nothing big had been through there recently. He tapped on the wooden frame around the opening, telling me that it was completely sealed. There was no way for anything bigger than a bug to get in or out. And even bugs, he said, would have trouble with that door. He even gave the doorknob a few firm twists from the inside and outside, demonstrating that it was stiff and secure. He left the crawl space door open for a while, turning on the bathroom light, trying to make it seem less scary. And for a while, it worked. My fear of that bathroom slowly receded, replaced by a vague sense of embarrassment for making such a fuss. I wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that there was nothing scary. I still avoided that bathroom though when I could, but the intense fear faded into just a general creepiness as I got older. Life went on. I grew up, went to college, and I moved out of state for work. Fast forward to last month. My parents were away on a trip, and I went back to stay at the house for a few days to look after their dog and get some work done remotely. It was strange being there alone in my old bedroom with the house feeling so quiet. For no particular reason other than nostalgia, I guess, I wandered downstairs to look around, and I of course decided to use that bathroom. I walked in, and that familiar coldness was still there, but of course it felt less menacing as an adult. Just an old house quirk. I went to use the toilet. I sat there scrolling on my phone, and I noticed something. On the wall where the crawl space door used to be, about to leave, I thought, what the heck? I reached out. I gently pulled the painting off of the wall. I lifted the picture off of its hook. And I couldn't believe what I saw. The door was gone. Completely. The entire opening had been drywalled over and painted to match the rest of the bathroom. My parents, for some reason, had sealed it off. When my parents came home from the trip, I stayed one more night to have dinner and hang out with them. I tried to be casual, asking, "Hey, I noticed that you guys sealed off the crawl space door in the bathroom. When did that happen?" They both went quiet. My dad stopped chewing, his eyes meeting my mom's across the table. My mom put her fork down. My dad said, "Oh, that was a while ago, honey." I could tell he was trying to be casual about it. But my mom, she looked at me with a genuinely regretful expression on her face. "Honey," she began, "we are so sorry. We are so sorry about all those times you told us about the scratching and the noises and the door not moving. My dad picked up where she stopped. "After you moved out, your mother started hearing things too. They were faint at first, but it happened whenever she was alone downstairs. She would hear the scratching and then thumping, and eventually we would go to bed and we would make sure that that door was completely shut. We would sometimes even put a box in front of it, something heavy. And then, in the morning, we would go downstairs and it would be open. Sometimes just a crack, but sometimes all the way." They were being weird about it. Not evasive, but I could tell that my mom was scared. My dad was still trying to figure it out, maybe. I don't think he was scared, but there was something about it that was making him uncomfortable. Like something not quite explainable had been happening. He said it didn't matter what they did, but they kept finding that door open. They didn't know what else to do, so they sealed it off completely. that just, happens to open up the door every night and come on out, I would be a little angry. Okay. Hey, Leah. Hey. Thank you for your commitment to telling everyone's creepy true stories, and thank you for taking the time to read mine. I have had a lot of them over the years, but this one has always stood out as one of the most memorable and most creepy. About 15 years ago, when I was a teenager, I started practicing the craft. It wasn't new to me. It's in my blood from my dad's side. I have always had a strong connection to the other side, and since childhood, I have experienced things that I just couldn't explain. But back then, I was just starting to experiment. Herbs, spells, little rituals inspired, very practical magic-esque. Sally Owens was my blueprint, honestly. That's Sandra Bullock, isn't it? I think. At the time, we lived in a small apartment. The backyard was small, fenced in with a short chain-link border. Our washer and dryer were in a wooden shed out in the back. And that shed always gave me weird vibes. Especially because my mom, who was always leaned Christian, kept an old Bible out there. And every time I went out there to do laundry, that Bible would be open to a different page. I never touched it. I never moved it, but it was always open. The nightmares started around then. Always the same little girl asking for help. I never saw her face clearly, but she felt lost, desperate. And every time she was near the house behind our fence, the one directly on the other side of that shed. One day I was washing clothes, just minding my business, when out of nowhere a massive gust of wind slammed the shed door shut. One of them had been stuck shut for months, completely jammed, and it blew wide open like it was nothing. I froze. I felt like I was being watched. I wasn't just creeped out from the wind, but I felt like I was being watched. I cautiously stepped out to close the door, and that was when I saw her. A woman standing on the other side of the chain link fence. She was standing right against it. She wasn't moving. No blinking, no expression, just standing still. And next to her was a small dog, also totally still, like a little statue. No leash, wasn't making a sound. They were just watching me. As somebody who has always been sensitive to energy, some kind of spell. I slipped through the gate and I got inside the house. I locked the door and I peeked out through the blinds. Gone. She was just gone. I couldn't see her walking away. I couldn't find her hiding. She was just gone. This happened again about a week later. Only this time it was a man. Same fence, same stare, same stillness. The dog was not there, but the feeling was identical. I never told anyone about this. I didn't even tell my best friend at the time. But about a month later, she slept over. We were rebellious teens, sneaking out late. And I remember checking the time when we went out. It was exactly 3 o'clock in the morning. Put my tea down. It's getting cold. As we walked the streets, my friend randomly said, "That house behind your yard is super creepy." I agreed, and then she said the words that I still think about today. "Let's sneak into that old shed by their house." She dared me, teased me when I said no, but eventually I gave in. No. I hopped the fence alone, turning to help her over, and she laughed at me, saying, "You really think that I'm gonna go in there with you?" I was pissed, but I started walking toward the shed anyway. Then the garage light of that house flipped on, and I heard the whirring of a chainsaw. Loud, aggressive, and it came out of nowhere. I didn't wait to find out what came next. I ran. We both ran, full speed back to the house. That should have been the end of it, but I remembered something. A while back, my mom had visited Costa Rica with her boyfriend. They had stayed with a friend of his, a woman who asked my mom to bring a small wooden box back to the States for her. She said that she would pick it up on a future trip, and she also told my mom not to open it. Of course, I found that box, and of course, my same friend insisted that we open it. Inside of the box was a spell book full of dark magic. The first page said, "Do not open, do not read." I ignored that. It was after that everything changed. That was when the nightmare started. That was when the shed door slammed open. The people at the fence, the chainsaw, everything. Looking back now, I can't help but wonder if we opened something. And here's the weirdest part. That pushing me to go farther than I wanted. She moved away not long after. She disappeared. No social media, no contact. It's like she vanished. I have tried to look her up over the years. I have asked around, but nobody knows where she went. To this day, I still wonder if she was even who she said she was. Oh, I have had many more experiences since then, but it's that chapter that stands out the most. Because something shifted after we opened that box. Something followed me. I felt it for years. Whatever it was, skinwalker, entity, dark energy, I will never know for sure. But one thing I do believe is that the only thing that protected me was my bloodline, my light, my ancestral magic. And honestly, I wonder, maybe, if that was the only reason I made it out of that situation. Thank you again. I look forward to hearing the other viewers' scary stories. With love and light, LH. Okay, 2 things. First, I love letters that end with love and light. I think it's such, I don't know, it's just such a lovely way to end, especially a scary story. And it's funny, like, I feel like I can almost feel that positive energy when somebody says with love and light. It's very, just very cool. I don't know, I love it. And second, did your mom's friend, that woman, I don't know if she was a friend, but did she come and pick up the box? Like, please, if you're watching the video, whenever you see it, can you answer in the comments or can you email me back? Yeah, I would really love to know, like, if you or your mom contacted her or if she contacted you asking about the box. That is definitely a story that we need an update for. Maybe you don't want to ask her, maybe you don't want to meet her in person either. Whew, super interesting.